All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome to Grace and Gossip. I am your host, Crystal XO, and you guys know on Mondays we do Grace and Gossip. Um, we have a lot changing with the channel. There are some good things to report. Grace and Gossip is going to be officially under the Lennox and Parker brand. And so that means that we're going to have a lot more content, a lot more reviews, a lot more individual reviews. I know Scorpio Mo and I usually like mix some reviews, but because we are kind of absorbing Grace and Gossip under Lennox and Parker, we're going to have more reviews. So after this broadcast later on tonight at 10 o'clock is the part one of King's Court, the King's Court review on episode one. Episode two will be out next week or maybe later this week because I'm a little bit late in getting these out. So maybe later this week, and then next Monday we'll get back to like every Monday. The show comes on Sunday nights. So every Monday the show will be on. Of course, everybody is excited about the return of Love and Marriage Huntsville. It's been a lot of talk. I actually had a lot of commentary on that today, but as you mentioned, Haitian Empress, my whole energy and vibe for today has changed because we learned that Malcolm Jamal Warner passed away today. And so I just wanted to kind of dedicate this broadcast to him. And I did not feel right just talking about stupid gossip and salacious stuff with a king that we, want to honor. He was an amazing man. I want to talk about just his impact and, from learning it and then running around today. I didn't have time to put together. I want to put together something. I'll probably put together like a video montage later, but I just wanted to kind of come on. And, we are a family. And I honestly, there's not many celebrities that when they pass, you actually feel like you have suffered a loss. But he is one of those people because I feel like for most of you that are on this channel, the majority of this channel, is around the same generation as I am. And we grew up with the Cosby Show. And, most of us had a crush on Theo. I know I did. And then admired him later on. I had the opportunity to meet him a few times, interviewed him one time for the show that he's on now. But this is it feels like a really big loss. And so I was like, I cannot come on here and talk about the foolishness that is happening in reality TV when we have really suffered a huge loss as a community. And so we're just going to talk about all of our memories of him, the Cosby Show. I don't care. And I think, I came to this conclusion a while ago, there's nothing that can be done to erase the impact that the Cosby Show had on the Black community. For those of you that are not aware, we're not just talking about the fact that most of us grew up watching the show, right? But the fact that percentages of Black students going to college increased in ridiculous numbers, right? And not just going to college, but also going to HBCUs, right? It was interesting because I was having a conversation with my kids, and my kids grew up watching Fresh Prince the way we grew up watching the Cosby Show. And so we were arguing, about which show had the biggest impact and which show, was better. It's just a silly conversation with me and my kids. And I realized something, the Cosby Show, even though, there was a mother that was a lawyer and a father that was a doctor, because of the way the show was presented, it was very much aspirational, right? very much you felt like you could relate. It wasn't too much over our heads. I love that. If we can all just put in the comments like your favorite memory from the Cosby Show, or even if you have a favorite memory of Malcolm Jamal Warner outside of the Cosby Show. But Haitian Empress put Gordon Gartrell. We all remember that episode of him with the shirt that their niece had made. But if we could just all just kind of, it's heavy. It's really heavy. But if, I don't really know how to handle this without talking about the good things and the impact that was from the show. I really don't. And I know that, like I said, I cannot, I'm sorry to those of you. I know we like to kiki, but I can't, I don't want to kiki tonight. I want us to really have a real conversation and just, honor the legacy that this man has left and the things that he was a part of. And I want to pull up this information for you guys because I think this is important. But even outside of the Cosby Show, I saw a clip today as I was coming home. I saw a clip where he was interviewing with Melissa Ford on her Hot and Bothered podcast. And he was saying that, his father was proud of him. She asked him actually about his legacy, and it was this year because he's 54 years old. I'm just having a hard time getting through this, but I want to read this to you guys, and then we're going to talk about okay. They're not giving me numbers here, but I know that there are numbers, but it says that the Cosby Show and its spinoff, A Different World, significantly impacted college admissions, particularly for HBCUs and colleges and universities. The Cosby Show increased the visibility of Black middle-class families and success stories, while A Different World directly showcased the HBCU experience. The Cosby Show indirectly contributed to a growing interest in college as it depicted the Huxtable family valuing education and success. While not solely focused on HBCUs, it normalized the idea of Black families pursuing higher education and achieving professional success. Both shows challenged stereotypes and presented diverse perspectives on college life, encouraging students from various backgrounds to explore different educational pathways. This is going to be a difficult episode to get through. I watch the Cosby Show a lot. Like if I'm having a particularly heavy day, I will go back, and on YouTube they have clips and they have segments. And I think one of my favorite episodes of the Cosby Show with Theo or Malcolm Jamal Warner was when he had accidentally kissed Vanessa Williams, and I can't remember her character's name, but we all knew he was dating Justine. That was his love interest, Justine. And so Cosby was telling him, his dad was explaining to him what he needed to do to get her back, that he needed to go deep, that he needed to like summons the spirit of the blues. And so he was like, this is it. Bum, ba-dum, 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 ba-bum, ba-bum, bum, ba-da-da-da-da. And he's like, Justine. And it was just to see a father and a son. Again, I grew up in a family where there was no father. So seeing that type of interaction, it introduced so much. It was, number one, you see the father and the son, right, having a real life conversation about a son doing something wrong and needing to apologize. It also constantly introduced Black art in a way that we did not have access to, right? So from the blues to the artwork, they would, talk about the different artwork in the house, and they introduced their children, and then we got a chance to vicariously enjoy that, where they would go to see musicians learn about history. It was so much. But I remember when he was sitting on there, he was like, Justine was like, no, 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 you got to go deeper. You got to go like the blues. And it was like, Justine. It was hilarious. But I think that was my favorite Theo show. There's so many. Of course, the Gordon Gartrell was a lot. The Monopoly Money. I see someone mention that. Um, that was a big one as well, because we could all relate to that. All of us growing up could relate to those episodes, and I think I was, could probably relate most in age and attitude most with Vanessa, but because I wasn't as when you're watching it, who's your age, and at that time I was probably closer in age to Vanessa, and then Denise and Sandra were older. And then everyone had the crush on the older brother Theo, but I want to say outside, because we understand Malcolm Jamal Warner was more than just his character. And I saw a clip of him talking this year with Melissa Ford, and she asked him about his legacy, and he was like, at 54, that's something that he thinks about a lot. And he said that the first thing he said is that his mother told him that Bill Cosby gave him the gift of immortality. And he stopped, and that's really deep, because the reality is that character that he played for so long lives on. And so even though it's no longer on TV, it hasn't been on television in years, after a hard day of work, I can watch that character, and I know that so much of what many of us in that generation got was from watching that show, and even younger ones can watch, can watch the show as well. So, it's just a crazy day. This is a crazy day. It's a crazy day. But yes, so he was saying that he had the gift of immortality with that. And then he said, just the work that he's doing outside, all the shows that he's done since Cosby, because he's, been on 911. He's done a lot of other shows on a lot of, he did Malcolm and Eddie. He's done voiceovers for the Magic School Bus. He's done a lot of different television shows. And so he was definitely someone, The Resident. Yeah, that's why I actually interviewed him for The Resident. And he also played music, and was a big part of the community, lived here in Atlanta. And I will say, I've had my job, requires me to interact and interview celebrities, and a lot of times be out with them and things like that. Yes, I did. I love Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce. I wish I had this channel when that show was on, because I would love to, review that show. But he was Retta's love interest on Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce. And he always had this big smile, but that's how he was off camera. Like everyone that I have ever, I've like I said, I've been around him a few times, but I've worked with a lot of people that, have worked with him. And because he did he was doing music in his off time, and that I don't think there's ever a a person that I've ever met, I'll work on that, that had anything negative to say about him ever. Like and not just negative, like he didn't act like, a lot of times celebrities, specifically celebrities that have been in the business for that long, have this kind of air about them that doesn't feel not normal, right? Like they have been a star for so long. They're just different. But he was very relatable, very kind to everyone. And I pay a lot of attention to people that are kind to everyone on the set, not just their peers or not just the person that's interviewing them. Because of course we know it makes sense to be kind to the person that's interviewing you, because that could possibly get you a great interview, get you a great story. But I mean, the people that are kind to the worker, anyone in the room, from the janitor to the grip to just a good, solid person. And one of the things that he said in that segment is that with Melissa is that his father said that he was, his people always come up to him and talking about his son. And he said, I love that they know your legacy there. But what I'm most proud of is the fact that you're a really good person. Like, and he was a really good, solid person. I have a friend that I've known for years, and he has, for a long time, I was like integrated into his family, right? And because I didn't have family here for so long, I have family here now, but I didn't have family here for a long time. And so one of his uncles came to live with him, and he took him to see Malcolm Jamal Warner at this event. And his uncle is like one of those guys that's like, Black power and, really about just a little bit militant maybe. But when Malcolm met him, he actually called him Mr. Cosby on the phone and put him on the phone. And and just to let him hear what a huge impact, it had on this man. And this was just a regular person. And he just felt so moved by the fact that he was talking. He called and gave him that moment. And then he called my friend on the phone and he just said, "Hey, I just want you to know, I called Mr. Cosby and I just kind of like apologized for just surprising him and putting someone on the phone with him. But he told me that it actually, uplifted him and he thanked me, for doing that, And so just the fact that he did it, the fact that he called and apologized and then let the guys know that he felt better because he knew he didn't do anything wrong. I can't tell you how, and this is just this made this man's day. And he's just, just someone's uncle. Like, I took my uncle to see Roger, and Cheryl, Champagne King, and backstage, he got a chance to meet them. But usually when you do that, people will, be nice just for you, but they don't go out of their way. But that's just one of the many, many stories that I've heard about him. There's one of my mentors, Joyce Littell. He did an event with her because she has, she's a radio maven, and so she would do this poetry and spoken word and music collaboration. And he was a part of that with her. Just a solid guy. Like I don't even know how to go beyond that. But earlier, I know my thoughts are jumbled and I appreciate you guys having patience. This is just really difficult to even think that someone so vibrant and that was such a big part of our lives, just unexpectedly, freak accident is no longer here. I think it reminds us of how fragile, beautiful, and just fleeting, our lives are. We have no idea. He did this podcast with Melissa Ford this year talking about his legacy, and now we are here talking about his legacy. But I was talking about with my children about we were going back and forth and just saying the difference between the Cosby Show and their version of the Cosby Show, which was Fresh Prince. We ain't gonna go into that. It's a whole nother level, a whole nother conversation. But I realized what made the Cosby Show different. The Cosby Show was a doctor, a lawyer, and their children. And it felt very much like if you do the right things, you can achieve this, right? It didn't feel, at least for me, and you guys can let me know what you think. When I watched the Cosby Show, it never felt out of reach to me. It felt like I can go to school. I just have to get good grades. I have to work hard and I can do this, right? But for the Fresh Prince, that wasn't the show. The show was, this is something that's above brow. Like, this is almost like a fantasy. Like, they are so wealthy that I never related to, and of course I was older and my children were watching that show, but I don't think my daughter related to Hillary, you know what I mean? Like, or Ashley, or Carlton. I mean, they were all extremes, and it all felt very much like, this is over the top. This is what the rich and elite do, but it's not what you can do, right? Because you just can't. Yes, I agree, Haitian Empress. When I watched Cosby, I felt like the friends I wanted my mom to have. Um, I felt very much, I could connect very much, and felt very much like I had a lot in common with Vanessa. She would irritate me because she would mess up, and you'd be like, but I was like, I could see that, I could see that. I was the oldest, so I wasn't the middle child, but still, I didn't feel, it wasn't the same as like a Hillary Banks that's like wearing designer clothes and just, over, like, that just didn't feel relatable. And that's why I think the impact was different. I don't think, and this is no slight to Fresh Prince, I'm just saying that for our generation, and we won't have anything like that again. Like, I don't think, I very much want to write for television, because I know that representation really matters, right? We see that's a perfect example of why representation matters. When you watch something and you think, oh, I could potentially be that, then you start to live that, you start to do things that would put you in that place. And I know that's really important. So it is important to have those shows that are fantasy driven, right? You move with your auntie and uncle to Bel Air, and you have this very rich, but that's not relatable. And it really wasn't, the foundation wasn't your hard work, but Cosby Show was very much about, this is your hard work. I mean, and that scene that Theo, someone mentioned earlier with the Monopoly money, he had gotten bad grades, and his dad was like, you're not going to be able to get in college with these kind of grades. You've got to work hard, very much different, very much different. Very much different than that. And I think, hey, you there, I know you're a little bit younger than we are. She said, I didn't grow up watching Cosby Show. I was a Nickelodeon, Disney, Cartoon Network kid. But even with Fresh Prince, I never saw these shows as aspirational. I never understood why people do that. I think that's the difference. I think by the time your generation came around, you're my daughter's age. So I think by that time, first of all, there were a lot more Black people on television, right? When we grew up there, there was the Cosby Show, a different world. There wasn't a lot of, by the time, look at the differences, by the time you came up, and I remember my daughter, you guys, That's So Raven, and you had all these other examples, and probably some of them, you related to, some of them you probably didn't. But the thing about it is you had so many to choose from. We just didn't have that many. We didn't have that many. So I didn't really see Black people on television like that. It's a big difference between what was seen in the 70s and 80s. I grew up in the 80s, so what we saw was different than what that generation saw, because we just didn't have, the times were so different, but anyway, yeah, Living Single, all those things by the time, but see, Living Single came later. I'm talking about Cosby Show was when we were really smaller, and the age of the kids. That's why, Theo is 54, just a little few years older, than a lot of us are. Maybe, all of us are in that generation. So I think that thank you for making me laugh. Hey, you there. Said, weirdly, I aspired to be cartoon characters. I think my daughter wanted to be a Powerpuff Girl. But I love that you guys had that. You had that ability. You know what I mean? Because we didn't see ourselves like that. But I just, going back to Malcolm Jamal Warner, to be, an attractive man. I don't know. Somebody mentioned that he had some. I don't know anything negative. I've never seen anything negative ever, about him. And like I said, I've been around him, a few times, and I've been around this business long enough to have heard negative on a lot of people that I never thought I would have. I remember going to see Bill Cosby because probably in the late 90s, yes, he did date Regina King for a while. And I really thought that was like I love them together. I hated that they didn't work out, but I also, have been around people long enough to know that just because a couple looks cute together doesn't mean they're compatible. But I was sad when they broke up, and I actually, my heart goes out to her, because I'm sure, I know he was married and he has a daughter. He talks a lot about his becoming a father and how much that meant to him. But I'm sure that it's hurtful for her to hear that he's no longer here, and especially because we know her son passed away as well. And so my heart goes out to Regina King as well, and just everyone whom his life touched, including those of us watching this show, but specifically his wife and daughter and his close family. I cannot imagine. To break up this monotony, because it just feels so heavy, but I just felt like this was needed today. I want to play something that he did, and I've been seeing so many things and enjoying, snippets of the Cosby Show. Everybody's been playing those today, and I would encourage people, if you haven't seen the Cosby Show, you may not, and I don't know if it would transfer to this day and age. I think it would, because the lessons, a lot of kids need to hear those lessons. But I would just suggest watching it and seeing and understanding what those of us that love it are talking about, especially now, just in tribute to him. But his music was a very big part of his afterlife, and I think sometimes it can be difficult for people that have that type of role to grow, because a lot of times we don't want to let them grow. We want to see him as Theo. I know Keisha Knight Pulliam hates people calling her Rudy and all. And I guess for her, it's probably a little different because she was so little on the show. She did grow up on the show, but at first she was like 4. She was a tiny little thing. But I know that struggle of wanting to be seen for more than just that character, is there. But I want to play something that he did afterwards, and it just, again, goes to show his brilliance and his commitment to our community. I don't know what happened. We don't, none of us will know, about what it felt like to be on that set. But I do know that from that show, Malcolm Jamal Warner was an amazing man. Felicia Rashad continues to be just an amazing example of womanhood and like that role model, that you would look to. She's always carried herself. She's never compromised. She's always carried herself that way. I just think even Keisha Knight Pulliam, she's married. She has 2 children. Or she hosts the Married at First Sight after show. Like, that cast was just, I don't think we'll ever have anything else like that. And I just think that we owe Bill Cosby put together an amazing cast, amazing show that just meant a lot more to our community than I think he probably even could ever comprehend. But in any case, I want to play this, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the man that was Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Malcolm, Huey, Alvin, Marcus, Richard, Jesse, Adam, Carlin, Gordon, James, Philip, Nat. Showed them not to play with us. Duke, Langston, Thurgood, Robert, Hank, Jesse, Jackie, Muhammad, Paul, Stokely, Mega, Webb. About 3 Benjamins, a good 2 Freds. Women like Harriet, Rosa, Ida, Shirley, Sojourner, Madam, Maya, Mary, Bessa, Ella, and Retta. Even baby Ruby was out here applying pressure. Gail, John, Booker, Sid, George, nuts if you don't know who he is. Bayard, Charles, Roy, Carter, Cecil, just for drinking them white folks' water. All kings and queens, yes, for real. And to the ones that we lost, like Emmett Till and all those that's here, we gon' continue to hold it down. Say it loud, black and I'm
proud. See, that's just, very creative. very creative on our brother. Rest in peace, also DMX. What they really want. There was that challenge where women were doing the what they really want and coming up with all the different the names. But that was a wonderful Black History tribute that he did. Um, mm. But yeah, I just think that we we have to appreciate when we do have those people. And I think that we should give, I was like, I don't want to even talk about anything else. I just want us to talk about that, what that meant and what that, and it, watching his example in the other shows. I remember I was interviewing him and it was about the resident, and he was talking about that. And he was really like, and his music, because he was always going to talk about his music, in addition to, his acting, because that was something he was very, very proud of. And it was like, it felt even more of a passion project a passion driven, you know, thing than the acting. He just really, really loved playing. He played and he did poetry, rapped, and he just was totally an artistic person. And I guess acting is a big part of that. But I remember, him, because we had to reschedule the interview. He had something else come up, and it was just, we were meeting at this location and he couldn't get there. And so we had to reschedule it. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous because I was like, it's Theo. When I just have a crush on Theo, and he's so cute. It was just very cute and just very, but so professional and so gracious and so kind, but so very serious about art. And yes, Hey You There. I didn't think what I just played. I love the fact, because at first when I started watching it, I thought that it was going to be him just, giving honor to the men, the Black men. But then when he flipped it and the rest of it was women, I was just like, that's why you have to love them. Like, he was just really got it. And I think I gotta say, a lot of that had to be his parents. And then also, he had immense respect for Bill Cosby, and I know that, things have happened and a lot of people have felt like that legacy is besmirched, but I don't think the legacy of what he did was besmirched. And whatever happened, there's just so much that was done for our community that I can't let that go. You know what I mean? I just won't. I cannot let that go. And I think that, I don't know, like, I think we can always pick things apart and say what we should have done or shouldn't have done or should have done. But at the end of the day, we know that, like, when people have success and have access and have that type of celebrity, because with that type of celebrity comes a lot of responsibility, because either or, because it can probably be difficult because people expect something from you because you are a household name, right? And that's got to be difficult to get over, wanting to not be connected to that character for the rest of your life, but then realizing that character had such a beautiful impact on the community had to be, a blessing. And I think he did embrace that. I think that all of them, probably understand, but I'm sure it probably gets annoying when people can't separate them from that character. But I think what his mom told him that he shared, is such a true thing. It made them immortal. So when you know that Keisha Knight Pulliam is a grown woman with, her own family, and she's not Rudy, that, but then you watch the show and you watch the reruns, you watch the lessons and the beautiful example of a father talking to his daughter and a mother teaching their daughter and grandparents. And it really, like, showed family and how the grandparents would come together from both sides, and they were both impactful. And then the sisters would go to college and come back with their own families, and they just interacted. So it made everybody immortal, and it gave us an example that a lot of us just did not have. You know, I am definitely rambling, so I would love to hear more from you guys in the comments. If you have other like memories of the Cosby Show that you want to mention, please do. I want to put some of those up in the comments. So many of the stars today, were introduced on that show. It's so interesting because yesterday I saw Carl Payne. Yes, Carl Payne, he didn't have a primary role on the Cosby Show like he did on Martin, but he had the benefit of being on both. That's amazing, to be on the Cosby Show and even though his role wasn't a primary, he was. We did see him on quite a few episodes, as Theo's friend Cockroach, and then he was on Martin. Erica Alexander, yes, was on the Cosby Show as Cousin Pam, and then went over to Living Single, another one of my favorite shows. When I saw last night, which was interesting, and I literally just saw this before today, the guy, and I don't even remember what his name was, but he was Denise's boyfriend. Do you guys remember that? Denise's boyfriend, she always had a crazy boyfriend or was doing something. And the guy was on the couch and he was like, I said, "Hey, man." I said, and Cosby was just like looking at him crazy. And Denise starts going 8-man with him. And it was a big, big hit. Well, it ended up being breaking the Nielsen records for the Cosby Show. It was just like, you going out with this weird guy, and they constantly, a big part of the show was the teenagers doing things and the parents trying to figure it out. That wasn't Christoph St. John that did that, but he was on the show. And rest in peace to him. But yeah, this guy, so he was talking about the impact that episode changed his life. And he said that his agent, because he said he had $7 to his name, and he was sleeping on someone's sofa when he was given that opportunity. And that interaction, they totally just freestyled it. That wasn't Christoph that did that. I literally just saw this yesterday, and I was like, that's crazy. Because I didn't think, I remember the episode and I thought it was funny, but I didn't think that it would change his life and that he, had other opportunities because of that. Let me see. I just saw this last night, and I wasn't thinking of talking about it, so I didn't save it. But I just, I think I was working and just scrolling just to take a break. But the guy, let me see if I can find it. The guy just talks about how that one episode changed his life and enabled him to do so much more. And he said that it wasn't written, and he just thought, let me do something. He said, if you look at Cosby's face, and I watched it and I was like, you can't tell because that show was so good. I wondered like what writers were on that show, because the writing was so good. But he said that part was totally just, they freestyled and just went along with it. And it turned out to be a huge, huge show. I guess it was slated during sweeps. And yeah, crazy episode. But he was just talking about how, he was so thankful that Cosby gave him that opportunity. Yeah, I remember because, of course, every young girl can relate to bringing a guy home that their mom is like, what? But so many celebrities visited the Cosby Show. Whitney Houston was on so many. Let me see if I can find this. It's like, yes, Denise brings her reggae boyfriend home. Hold on. Now there's one with Christoph was, I think I found it. Yes. Let me see if I can pull it so we can look at it, because that'll be fun to watch. That'll be fun to watch together. Give me a second, you guys. But yeah, that little episode, I think it might have been Clayton, but I'm gonna pull it and play it right here for you guys in just a second. But he was on a podcast, and I didn't recognize, because he don't look like that now. But he was also not someone that we recognize. Like Christoph, I believe, was already on, like, or he might not have been on Young and Restless, but he had been on some other things. So I recognized him when he was on there. Alicia Keys did not. I don't know who she. Nobody would have recognized her. She's like a little boy. I thought she was a small boy. In fact, when they said it was her, I had to go back and look, and I was like, I thought that was a little boy. But there were so many people that were. Robin Givens, was on the Cosby. So many people were on Dondre with. Now that's who when Vanessa was dating. What was his name? Robert. Dondre Whitfield was Robert. I thought he was just everything. You guys remember having those type of crushes when we weren't really, like boys. We didn't know a lot about boys, but Robert was so cute. Oh my God, Dondre Whitfield. Shouts out to Shally Richardson for having a keeper. But yeah, that there were so many on the show that were amazing and went on to do amazing things. But yeah, I'm gonna pull this clip so we can watch this. But we gotta watch one with Malcolm before the day is over, so that we can just have a laugh together and love on him. But yes, Robert, y'all, I had a lot of crushes when I was little. But yeah, Dondre Whitfield was probably one of the biggest ones, because he was everything. He was so cute. Robert was so cute. Yeah, so all right, I'm gonna find the one where Theo is saying Justine, because I just love that one. Because Cosby is teaching him about the blues, but it's also, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine, or an associate here, and he said that, if you grew up without a father, or a father that was not really involved, you didn't know how to interact with women, because no one ever taught you the right way. And seeing Cosby talk to his son about, the right way to treat a woman, what you have to do, like all those things seem little, but they're really not. They're not little. They're not little. It's really important. And it really offered an opportunity for, I'll pull that one. I'm gonna play both of those before we get out of here. It just offers an opportunity to normalize, like, this is it is. And I remember the guy said, because he had never had a man talk to him about how to interact with a woman, how to break things off with a woman if you're not happy with her, how to do all of these things. All you know how to do is chase a woman. You don't know what really to do when you get her, if you hurt her, and all those things really should come from a father, a responsible father, right? And when there's not, then there's a huge disconnect. And then too, hey, that generation, there was a lot of fathers missing. There's historical, we all know there was a lot going on, from the crack epidemic, and all these things happen in our community to take fathers out of the home. But this show really helped everything. Okay, so you don't think Alan Payne aged like milk? Well, okay. Set your $5 ass down before I make change. That was the New Jack City, and Alan Payne was on there. In fact, he was Charmaine's boyfriend. He wasn't Cousin Pam's boyfriend, but yeah, he played on the Cosby Show as well. In the end, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't really like it in the end. Like, I didn't watch the Cousin Pam episodes as much because I had gotten older and I was more into a different world at that point. But the interactions between, because Theo would leave and he would come back from college, and so he wasn't on the show all the time. But he would come in, and then of course the focus became Raven, Simone, and Cosby, and Cousin Payne. It was kind of weird when things started to go off because the kids grew up and it just wasn't quite the same. But it was a good, 8 seasons of them being like kids and growing up, and it was a beautiful thing. Any other memories of Malcolm Jamal Warner outside of that? Did anybody enjoy the show with him and Eddie Griffin, Malcolm and Eddie? It was kind of strange. It was a little strange. I think it was on the WB or something. The WB maybe, when they were trying to, get the black audience to make them hot and then drop us like they always do. Malcolm and Eddie, I watched it because it was Malcolm Jamal Warner. Wasn't really that big of a fan of Eddie Griffin, but I did watch that show. I watched everything that Malcolm Jamal Warner was on because it was him. UPN. It might have been on UPN. And then what was the show with him and Tracy Ellis Ross as husband and wife? Did you guys remember that? It was I cannot remember. I do remember it, but it's far in my brain. And I never really thought they had real chemistry. I didn't think they had chemistry. Read between the lines. Yeah, I didn't think they had real chemistry. I'll admit, I didn't think they had great chemistry. I liked both of them very much, but I didn't think they had good chemistry. And I think it only had like one season. I don't think it had more than one season. So let me cut these and pull these for us to enjoy before we get out of here for today. Now, remember, you guys, I wanted to do this and just talk about the Cosby Show and Malcolm Jamal Warner. Oh, it didn't do the other one. Where is the other one? Where is the 8 Mom? Okay, there it is. Okay, there we go. Okay, hold on. I'll play this one first. I'll play this one first, and then we will go into into the one with or did it record that one? I don't think it recorded that one. Okay, it did. Okay. We'll do the 8 Mon first, and then the one that I love with the blues. Hilarious. And I'm saying like this again, if we had shows like this, these YNs may not be so out of control right now. We need stuff like this. We need good quality shows like this. Yes. Okay. All right. Hold on, guys. Give me 2 seconds. Let me just upload these. It had 50 episodes of Read Between the Lines. Was it that long? Yikes. I feel bad because I ain't watched 50 episodes. Trust that. I did not watch that. She released a statement about the show. Yikes. I saw that she said something about Malcolm today, but I didn't know that she said something. I didn't know that they released a song. I remember this when the show got canceled, but I didn't think it was on that long because I just didn't think they were believable. I didn't like them together. I love Tracy Ellis Ross. Big fan of her on Girlfriends, and I like him. I just didn't think they worked together. I did not think that was that couple made sense. But hey, who am I? Who am I? When my show comes out, you guys, I am hoping that when because I'm working on a show. Yes, it was definitely before Blackish, but I'm working on a show, and I really hope that when this show goes, that you guys, that we can talk about that show. That'll make me so happy. I am believing, and you guys are going to be here from the very beginning to see. She said it, and now it's on. I'm believing that the show is going to because I believe that representation really matters. It's important that we see us in different ways. It's important that we see Black people doing a myriad of things outside of just, having an attitude or we just got to see a lot of different. I think that Black shows should be the same as any other show. Like it doesn't need to be a Black show. It just needs to be a show about Black people, right? It's not necessarily a Black show. It's just a show that has Black characters, but Black characters do exactly the same thing as other characters do, right? There should be no difference. It should be no difference. It should be no difference. Why is this not working? Why is this not working? Hold on, guys. Hold on 2 seconds. Just have a little faith. I will get it up. I promise. And then later, you guys, please tune in for the first part of the first review on King's Court, because I really, really like the show. I like King's Court better than Queen's Court. Way better. And I will say that you guys know I talked about the fact that I had this horrible run-in with Tyson Beckford years ago. But I actually like him a lot better after watching the show. Now, I still think he's foolish. He's full of games. He's unserious. Out of all the guys on the show, he's unserious. But I know episode 2 aired, but I have season 1 review is going to air tonight. And then I'll do episode 2, and I'll have that run tomorrow. But he is full of himself. But guess who made him full of himself? Women. I ain't gonna lie, I was one of those. I'm not gonna keep telling y'all about all the crushes I had, but I mean, come on, Tyson Beckford was that man. All right, without further ado, first we're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch this clip together. This clip is the guy that I watched last night before we knew all this was gonna happen. Talk about how this particular, at the point that he did this episode, that he got hired to do this, he was sleeping on the couch, on someone else's couch with $7 to his name. And this changed his life. This is totally not rehearsed. This is something that he came up with because he wanted to impress Cosby and he wanted to be funny. He was like, I got one chance to make this work. And it worked. This broke Nielsen records during Sweeps Week and was one of the funniest episodes that season.
Eddie, how are you?
Hi, Dr. Tyson.
Have a sit down. See, you're watching the All Music Station. You're into reggae, huh?
Yeah.
said you go down. And I said, hey, man. But I think for a while, they do myself. Hey, man. Hey, man. I said, hey, man. Hey, man. I said, hey, man.
Oh my God. Hilarious. Hilarious. So I saw that yesterday. And he talks about how that scene, very simple, but who would have thought that they would have that would have been just uh hey you there, said I thought that was a member of DeBarge, not Denise. Ma'am. Denise had the most crazy hairstyles, and I did not know at the time when I was watching that she was biracial. So I was like, how is her hair doing all this stuff? Well, later on we learned that but she's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman, and very just has a signature look. But now, without further ado, I cannot think of a better way to end tonight's tribute and just our thoughts of Malcolm Jamal Warner without playing my favorite Theo scene from The Cosby Show. This is my absolute favorite scene. I have a bunch of them, but this is one, and I hope that everybody enjoys that, enjoys this scene. Let's watch. This is Cosby teaching Theo the importance of the blues.
Get your woman back. What you need to do now is go to the next level if you want Justine back.
What's that?
Begging. You need to do some serious begging. And I mean, other than the begging you've been doing, where you say, Justine, I'm sorry, and Justine, well, it wasn't me that you saw, that kind of thing. You need to do some serious get down underneath. Please, please, please. Then you can go to the next level, which is, just a second, I'll show you what I mean. This is the ultimate level. This one. There you go. Now pay attention to what I'm saying. All right? This is the level you want. That's what you want. The blues begging level, my son. Now listen to me.
Justine.
Look, listen to me. You're a dog. You're a dog. You're under the house. It's 22 below zero. The wind is blowing fierce. You're freezing and you're cold, and the only person who can open that door for you is Justine.
Justine.
Now, wait. Come on. Now, we got to just you got to call. You get to hit that big note. Get inside now. Come on now. There you go. Justine. Let me hear it.
Justine.
You're sorry.
Don't believe what you see. Justine. Oh, baby, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Well, I am glad that we can end tonight on a little bit lighter of a note. That's all we had, man. It's just the memories and, the fact that Theo is immortal. Malcolm Jamal Warner's legacy is immortal. Yes, you guys mentioned that Justine, the girl who played Justine, Michelle Thomas, passed away years ago from cancer. She also played Myra on Family Matters. But anyway, rest in power, King Malcolm Jamal Warner. We pray for his family. We pray for his daughter, his wife, his parents, his immediate family. And like I said, even all of us that were not blood relatives, but feel like Theo was our big brother. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today and just a little bit going down memory road and talking about an amazing man that was a beautiful example of a Black brother. Thank you guys for hanging out. Please make sure to hang out with me again next week. We'll try to get through next week with some actual grace and gossip tonight. We just wanted to honor Malcolm Jamal Warner. All right. I'll see you guys next time. You can tune in later tonight. We do see the episode 1 for King's Court. I'll be back tomorrow with episode 2. All right.